How's everybody doing today? I certainly hope you're doing well. Well, it's time for another edition of Story Time. It certainly is. And I like to tell people right out the gate if this is a true story or if it's not. Okay? It's not a true story. It's a story that I created. All right? And you know what? I have to admit, the last Story Time was a record. Is like 42 minutes long. And over 3,000 people just happened upon that. It's just hard to believe. Would I sit through that? Well, I did. Telling it. It's just mind-boggling. Okay, it certainly is. So, apparently you knuckleheads like it. All right? Now, this story is unique, but I'm sure that everyone will be able to relate. Either you've been in this situation yourself, or you definitely have known somebody in life that has been in this situation, okay? But when I create these stories, I like to add little things that are different. You know what I mean? So, here we go. The name of this story is called Exit 115. Certainly is. And it's based on a true story, but it's not a true story. Okay? Now you see, this was back in 1989. Yeah. Down in the southern tier of the United States, certainly was. And there was this young lady, she was 20 years of age, her name was Becky, and her boyfriend's name was John. See, John was a little older than she was. 2 or 3 years, you know. But you see, Becky lived with her mother, and her mother kind of looked out for her. And, you know, Becky wasn't employed full-time, but she had a couple of babysitting jobs that she would do, or pet sitting or house sitting, that sort of thing. But she didn't have a full-time job. And I tell you what, her and John, they are in love. But they're not living together. But you see, Becky, even though she doesn't have a full-time job, she does have a car. And she does have to, you know, mind her own chores at home because she's living with her mother. Her father died years prior. So the only person she really has to rely on is her mother. She has no sisters, she has no brother, she only has her mother. And they have a very good relationship. Oh, you can bet on that. And her mom wants her to go to college so she can get herself a really good education and get a really good job. So she will always be self-sufficient. And she'll be able to rely on herself, not on someone else, like John. Oh, no. But you see, that's the way her mom wanted to raise her daughter, to make sure that she would be okay in life. And that was a hell of a plan, let me tell you. But you see, John had other plans. He certainly did. He wanted to wean Becky away from her mother. He wanted to wean Becky away from that living instance and have Becky move in with him. Because you see, love is going to overpower any parental situation, even if it's the best in the world. It certainly will. And we've all been there now, haven't we? Okay? So, the weekend rolls by, and Becky and John are out doing their thing, and John doesn't treat Becky too great now. Oh no, he doesn't treat her like a queen. But Becky doesn't seem to mind because she's in love, and maybe he'll change. Sure he will. So, what happens was, John decides to tell Becky the way it's going to be. He says, Becky, you know something, I want to marry you. I do. I want to marry you. But you know something, I don't think we should marry right away. I think you should move in with me. And we'll live together for a couple of years, and then we'll get married. Because, you know, when you move in with somebody, things change. And you want to be sure that seeing how you're sharing close quarters and sharing the same bed and the same bathroom, and you're going out and you're making supper for each other and breakfast, and you're going to be around each other 24/7. You got to make sure it works before you get married now. Oh, yeah. So, Becky is like, well, I don't really know if I want to move in with you, John. I don't really know if I want to do that, you know. And John's like, oh, you gotta move in. You gotta move in, okay? How are we gonna get to know each other unless you move in? She's like, well, I don't know. I mean, you know, my mom's kind of like got things all planned for me. I'm supposed to go to college. I'm supposed to get a good education so I can get a good job, so I can kind of take care of myself. John's like, oh, that's a horrible idea. Come on. How many women really work anymore? Come on. Stop it. Women are supposed to be in the house, tending chores to the house. They're not supposed to be out there in the corporate world. That's my job. I'm the man of the house. That's my job. To make the money, to buy the bread. You do laundry and stuff, all that girly stuff. She's like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. So Becky goes home and tries to break the news to her mom about this potential, this idea that John has that she's not really sure about, to see if she can get the blessing from her mother. So she says, Mom, I'd like to talk to you about something. And she's like, well, what do you want, baby? She's like, well, you know, I was considering moving in with John. And her mom kind of looked at her and said, really now? I thought you were going to go to college and get a good education so you could get a good job, so you can take care of yourself and you can be self-sufficient, where you don't have to rely on somebody like John, okay, to do everything for you. She's like, Mama, I know, but how am I going to really live? And how am I going to experience life if I'm like sheltered all the time? And her mom just said flat out, no, you ain't moving out nowhere. You're staying right here. You're going to get your ass a good education. You're going to get your ass a good job. And you're going to be self-sufficient. And that's the final word. Well, Becky had a little attitude in her. She sure did. She's like, Mama, you don't tell me what to do. I'm an adult. I can do what I want. And matter of fact, I'm going to do it right now. Oh, yeah. So what'd Becky do? Yeah. Because she was a little pissed off at her mama because her mom didn't give her the blessing that maybe she was hoping for. She collected her things and her clothes, and she grabbed about everything but the toothbrush, put it in the car, and drove off. Pew, gone. Mm-hmm. Yep. She shows up to John's house, and oh, he's all for it. He's like, baby, that's the best decision you ever made. You got to live life. You got to experience life. You can't be under the wing of your mama and your daddy all your life, even though her daddy wasn't around. Right? So, you know, she puts her things away, and she's hanging all her clothes in the closet. She's putting her shoes there, and she's like, hey, John, what side of the closet do you like? You know, that kind of stuff, right? Then they try to figure out the sleeping arrangements. Do you like the right side, the left side? Is the bed on the right wall? You know, that feng shui stuff or whatever. And let me tell you something. As soon as she moved in, they're checking out everything. They got to check out all the bedrooms, make sure they work. Tink, tink. They got to check out the stairs, the steps. And I tell you what is a stove unless you have stovetop stuffing? They're checking it all out. Now, of course, you got to check out the washing machine. You put an offset load, so you got to make sure the washing machine works. I tell you what, they're doing it everywhere you can think of. They are, because that's what young couples do. They certainly do. Because not only are they in love, they're young. Oh, yeah, baby, you got to check it all out, you know. So, time goes on, and on and on and on. Months go by. Yeah, things are going pretty good. I mean, John doesn't treat Becky like a queen. Oh no. Sometimes he raises his voice to her, and maybe sometimes he doesn't kiss her before he goes out the door. Or sometimes he doesn't ask her how her day was. You know what I mean? He's not the best, but he's not that bad. Not too bad. So about 8 months go by. And John comes home early one day from work. Noticeably early. Becky says, "Hey, baby, you're kind of home early." And John says, "Shut up." She's like, "What's wrong, baby?" "I told you to shut up." Now, shut up. Walks into the kitchen, opens up the refrigerator, grabs a beer, pops it, walks out the back door. Becky's never seen him act like this. Oh no. Becky goes over to the back door and she's like, "Baby, what's wrong?" John turns around and says, "I told you to shut up. Now shut up." She closed the door and kind of went on her way, and tears are gathering in her eyes. She's getting a little bit sniffly. And then the phone rings. It sure does. Who's on the phone? It'd be her mom. Her mom's checking up on her, see how she's doing. 'Cause that's what moms do. They check up on you. Doesn't matter how old you are, they're always checking up on you. It's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's just a thing. She answers the phone. She got a little sniffler in her. And her mom says, "Baby, what's wrong?" She goes, "Oh, I'm just cutting some onions." Moms know better, don't they? Okay, they're like psychic. They are. All moms are psychic. She's like, "Oh, nonsense, baby. What's wrong?" She goes, "No, I was cutting onions, I swear. I just cut onions." Because Becky cannot tell her mom that things are a little rocky, especially now, because she'd never seen John act that way. So something's wrong. And she doesn't even know what's wrong. So how can she relay that to her mama? She can't. So her mom says, "Okay, baby, if you don't want to talk about it, then, it's totally all right." She goes, "No, I just got onions. I'm better now." And her mom asks her, "So how are things going?" She said, "Oh, they're going good. They are going good, Mama. These damn onions. They're going great, Mama. Oh, we're doing so good, and John's working hard, and I'm tending to the chores, and it's just awesome." But you see, things weren't awesome. And her mom knew that. She certainly did. But you see, Becky didn't want to tell her mom that, because she stomped out of the house 8 months ago, right? And she was all that. She's an adult. She's going to live her own life without her mama, right? She couldn't tell her mom that because the shame that would be brought upon her because of that reason, right? So they say that they love each other and they hang up the phone. John comes walking in the back door. He still has half a beer in his hand there. John's like, "You know something, Becky? I got to thinking today. I don't want to be with you anymore." Becky's heart fell right down to her feet. Sure did. She started crying uncontrollably and shaking, and she's like, "What are you talking about, baby?" "I don't want to be with you anymore. I've made up my mind that I want you to get your things right now and get the hell out of my house." Wow. Unreal. Becky is in a spot. She certainly is. Because only 10 minutes ago she's telling her mom how wonderful things are. So she couldn't rightly call her mom up and say, "Hey, listen, can you take me back?" Because of the shame that would follow that. Oh no. And maybe if she were to fall in love again, or some other circumstance were to happen again, maybe that would be used against her for the rest of her life. Who knows? Who knows? You don't know. So Becky is crying She certainly is. She's extremely emotional. She's shaking. She's uncontrollably crying, screaming at the same time. She's gathering her things, her shoes and her clothes, and she's putting them in bags. Takes her suitcase, throws in her shoes and her little sundries, hairspray and all the lady stuff that ladies have. She puts it in her car. She opens up the trunk there, and there's hardly any damn room because you got all tars and all that junk back there, newspapers and such. So she takes the suitcase, she puts it in the front seat of her car, and with loose bags and stuff in the trunk and such. She walks up to John. She says, "Baby, I don't know what came over you. He's like, "Go." I said, "Get the hell out of here. Now get out of here." She drives away. You see, Becky's in a bad spot right now. Psychologically, emotionally, financially, she is in a bad spot. Oh, yeah. And because of pride had gotten in the way. She wouldn't dare call her mother. She would rather be dead. Literally. Let me tell you something. That's exactly what Becky was thinking. Uh-huh. Sure was. A bad spot to be in. Sure is. Becky's driving down the road and she's thinking, well, I really don't want to hang myself. That could be painful. Women always think that stuff, you know what I mean? Well, I could jump off a bridge, but what if I live and I break all my bones? That wouldn't be good. Well, maybe I could OD or something. I don't know. She's in a bad kind of way, buddy. Let me tell you, she really is. And she's determined that she's not going to call her mom. But she's in a spot because she got a half a tank of gas. She got a couple of dollars to her name. No job. No education to get a job. She's in a bad spot. And again, as far as Becky's concerned, she'd rather be dead than have to face reality of how to deal with this circumstance. And she's really contemplating, in all seriousness, of following through. So she's driving down the road. She's extremely emotional. And off to a distance, she sees this fella. And he's hitchhiking. She's driving. She's like, my mama always told me never to pick up hitchhikers. She's like, well, hell, I'm going to kill myself anyway. Shit, maybe he'll kill me and it'll be my way out. She pulls off. She's like, I got to get it together. She rolls down the window. Where you going, mister? He goes, oh, I'm just going to the exit 115, which is the next exit. If you can drop me off at the gas station, boy, I really would appreciate it. And he starts to open the door to the front door, but he can't do it in the front seat. He can't. Because her suitcase is sitting there with all her shoes in it. Sure is. So she's like, oh, mister, I'm so sorry. Do you mind sitting in the back? Because I got all my things here. He goes, oh, no problem. So he opens the door, he gets in the back, and he kind of sits in the middle so she can see him in the rearview mirror. And she says to him before they veer off onto the road there to get going, she turns around and she says, now, mister, if you're thinking about raping me, forget it, okay? Because I'm on my period. And if you're thinking about robbing me, well, I only got like a couple of dollars to my name. And if you're thinking about killing me, well, that wouldn't be so bad. Just make it quick. And he looks at her with the most intense look that you could ever fathom in all your life. And he just stares at her and doesn't say a word. Kind of like the creepy stare. Doo-doo. She doesn't know what to make of that. almost to the uncomfortable kind of stare where somebody stares you in your eyes, eye to eye, and you just have to look away. One of them? Yeah. So she kind of looks away and she goes, "All right, mister, well, just behave yourself." She pulls off. She starts down the road. Now, exit 115 is only 2 or 3 miles away. It's not that far. 5, 10 minutes max, depends on traffic. And he says to her, "You know something, Becky?" She goes, "How did you know my name?" He goes, "That's not what's important here. I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen to you. And you're not going to believe me now, but you're going to believe me in about a half an hour." She's looking up in the rearview mirror. She's like, "Yeah, go ahead." He goes, "You're going to drop me off at exit 115. And I'm going to get out of the car, and you're going to be safe, and so am I. And I'm going to thank you very much for giving me a ride to exit 115. But I tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get back on the road, and about 5 miles later, your car is going to die. It's just going to stop running. And you're going to be stranded in both directions." And she's like, "Why are you telling me this? Are you trying to scare me?" He goes, "No, ma'am. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. And above and beyond that, you are going to have to hitchhike like I was hitchhiking. But here's the good thing. A man is going to pick you up, and he's going to be driving a station wagon. And here's the really neat part. He's going to look just like me, but 10 years older. And the rest is up to you if you decide to get in the truck. Or, excuse me, if you decide to get in his car. The rest is up to you." She's looking up in the rearview mirror. Like, "Mister, that's really scary. What's going to happen?" He says, "I can't tell you that, but it's up to you whether or not you get in his car or not." She's like, "Mister, I don't believe in that. I'm not superstitious. I don't believe in any of that. Okay, can you just be quiet? We're almost there." Here comes exit 115. She veers off, goes down the ramp a little bit, turns, goes to the gas station. Not a word is spoken. He opens the door and he says, "Thank you, ma'am, for the ride. I really appreciate it." Closes the door. He starts walking on his way. Becky's a little shaken now. Okay, she's been through an awful lot in this day. She certainly has. And now she's really kind of freaked out. But her mind has been taken away from those suicidal thoughts that she had. They were on her, boy. They were on her. And now she has another distraction. And boy, is it a big one. Because she didn't know what to do. So she looks over and she sees a payphone at the gas station. She thinks to herself, I could call my mom. Because this is kind of an emergency. I mean, I have a tank of gas. I only have a couple of dollars on me. I don't have a job. And John kicked me out. And she goes, but you know something? I want to see if my car is really going to break down. And I want to see if I'm going to have to hitchhike. And I want to also see if there's going to be a man that tries to pick me up hitchhiking, that's driving a station wagon, that looks like the guy I just picked up, but 10 years older. Because I'm going to get in that vehicle because I ain't got nothing to lose. Because I tell you what, if that doesn't happen, then I can go back to thinking on how I can end it all. Yeah. So that's what she does. She gets back up on the ramp. She gets back on the road. She's driving down the road. She's looking at her odometer there, right? She's thinking, 3 miles. Car's running fine. This guy's full of it. No, 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 no. Looks down, 4.3 miles. Ha ha. Less than a mile to go. Everything's running smooth. Ha ha. It goes past 5 miles. It's like 5.2 miles. Everything's fine. Just dandy. 5.2 miles. Car just stops. Just engine stops. Like somebody pulled the battery out. She's like, what? She's like, what? She pulls over a little bit on the shoulder there. She's like, she's trying to start. She's like, oh my God, what am I doing now? She tries to start again. Nothing. She doesn't even know how to lift up the hood, for Christ's sakes, okay? We're talking a Southern belle with soft hands, if you get my meaning. She's in a spot. Oh boy, is she in a spot. She doesn't know what to do. She does not know what to do. She gets out of the car. She's walking around the car a little bit. She's looking under it. She doesn't even know what she's looking at. Okay? Again, we're talking a Southern belle with soft hands. Oh, yeah. She doesn't know what to do. She opens her door. She gets back in the car. And she... Nothing. That car ain't starting. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. She takes her keys. She puts her keys in her pocket. Sure does. She's thinking, oh, geez, what do I do? What do I do? So she sees her purse and such. She takes a little bitty wallet, what little cash that she has in her identification. And I tell you what, Becky's wearing some tight pants, if you get my meaning. Oh, yeah, she sure was. She puts anything in her pants, they ain't coming out unless somebody takes off her pants, if you get my meaning, right? So she takes her driver's license and whatnot, what little money she had this little bitty wallet. She puts it in her front pocket there, and her keys are in her other pocket. And she decides, you know, I'm going to have to hitchhike. I have no choice. And you know what? I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not a mechanic. John always took care of that kind of stuff. So anyway, she gets out of the car. She's standing. She's hitchhiking. Here she is, doing her thing. And she's not a bad-looking hammer. You know what I mean, right? She has what is called shark looks. Do you know what shark looks are? I'm going to tell you what it is real quick. Okay, I'm not trying to divert from the story, but it's pretty damn important what shark looks are. And if you're a guy, you know what shark looks means. That means if you see a gal on the side of the road, you will circle around the block a couple of times, make sure she's still there. See if you got a chance. That's shark looks right there, baby. So she's kind of watching traffic on the other side go by, and she ain't seen no cars here. Been a while. She's kind of hitchhiking. And in a distance, she can see a car coming. And it's kind of like a teal color. Not really blue, not really green, kind of in between. Here it comes. She's getting a little nervous. And here it pulls, and guess what it is? It's a teal station wagon, if you can only imagine. Kind of like with the big boxy square windows. You know what I'm talking, right? Kind of like a Cadillac that's been turned into kind of like a station wagon. That's what it looks like to her. Big old station wagon, but with a big box window. And guy rolls down the window. He goes, "Where are you going?" She goes, "Well, I need to get to a payphone because my car broke down." He goes, "All right, well, get on in." He's wearing sunglasses. She goes, "Mister, before I get in, can you take off your sunglasses? Because, you know, I got to look somebody in the eye to see if I trust them or not." takes his glasses down, he takes them off, and sure enough, it looks like the man that she picked up, right, to take him to exit 115, but 10 years older. Oh my gosh, she's about freaked out now. She's freaked out. So she's sitting there thinking to herself, I could get killed. Wouldn't really be that bad, because if somebody else kills me, then okay, I'll get in the station wagon. She opens the door. She sits down there in the front seat, and the guy says to her, "No, you can't sit in the front seat. You got to sit in the back." She's like, "Why?" He goes, "Because my dog sits in the front seat, and there's hair everywhere, and I don't want it getting all over your pants, or you get little bugs and all that stuff." So she gets in the back seat there. And as she's getting in the back seat, she looks in the, those big station wagons. You got the seat there, but in the back you got the open area, and there's like tire irons sitting in there, and there's like a couple of tires in there, and just disgusting newspapers, and a blanket with like fur. Ugh, just disgusting, right? And she sits there. She's just kind of uncomfortable. She's sitting in the middle there so she can look at him in the rearview mirror. So he's driving down the road, and he's saying, "So what's your name?" She goes, "Oh, my name's Becky." "What's your name?" He doesn't say anything. That kind of creeped her out, right? Then he's just eyeballing her as he's driving down, not saying much. Kind of like the other fellas. Ooh, creepy. And the guy says to her like this. He goes, "Hey, Becky?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "What'd you do today?" She goes, "Well, I don't want to talk about it, and I don't really think it's none of your business, mister, and I'm not trying to be rude, but this is just kind of personal. I'd like to keep it to myself." He goes, "Well, that's impossible for you to keep it to yourself." She goes, "What?" He goes, "Oh yeah, that's impossible for you to keep it to yourself, because I already know all about it." She goes, "What? Mister, you're scaring me. What do you mean by that?" He goes, "I already know that you broke up with your boyfriend. I already know that you don't have a job, and you have no education, and you have little money, and you don't want to call your folks. You don't want to call your mother specifically because of the shame. And you're thinking about another way out of this, aren't you?" Becky's eyes got as big as bowling balls. She's freaking her out. She said, "Mister, how do you know this?" She goes, "Mister, you're really scaring me. Can you let me out?" He goes, "Well, if you want. If you want to get out, okay." He pulls off to the shoulder. He says, "Go ahead and get out if you want." She tries to open the door, and she can't open the door. The doors are set to such a way that you can't get out of the doors. Maybe that's why he didn't want her to sit in the front seat. Because the back doors, both of them, have been set up that you can't get out once you're in. So what happened? He goes, "Ma'am, you ain't getting out of this car. You ain't getting out of this car until I tell you you're damn good and ready to get out of this car." He pulls off to the side of the road, and he floors the boy. They're going about 90 miles an hour down this street. She's like, "Mister," she's hanging on the side. She said, Mister, slow down. You're going to get us killed." And he starts telling her, he goes, "Becky, that's what you want, isn't it? That's what you want. You don't want to be around here anymore, and I'm going to make sure that you're not around here anymore. I'm going to make sure that I take you in more than one way than you can ever imagine." He's going faster and faster. Right? There's an exit ahead. It's not 115, because 115 is way back that way, right? He turns in there. It's kind of like a dirt road. And he stops right as he turns in. And in the distance, you can see a bridge, an old bridge, and I'm sure you know the ones I'm talking about. The kind of bridges that are in the South that you wouldn't dare ride a tricycle over because you know what would happen if you did. The man driving the car, he turns his head, looks behind, and he says, "Becky, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Because you wanted to end this thing, and I'm going to help you with it so you don't have to have that guilt on you. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help you end things just the way you want them." And she's like, "What do you mean, mister? What are you talking about?" He goes, "I'm going to start this car, and you see about 300 feet away, 300 yards away, there's a bridge there. That bridge is not going to hold this car. Chances are, we're gonna fly just a little bit, and then we're gonna crash right into that little river down there, with all them rocks and such. Chances are, you'll be dead, I'll be dead, you'll be happy, and I'll be happy. What do you say?" Becky didn't say a thing. She's kind of quiet. All of a sudden you hear, they're flying, boy. Becky is having second thoughts. She's like, "I got to see my mama. I got to talk to my mama. I can't go like, this is crazy." She turns around. She hops up in the back part of the station wagon. She grabs a tire and she's trying to break the window out the back so she can jump the hell out of there before this car goes flying into that bridge or on that bridge and then falls down in the rocks and all that into the river and she drowns, right? She's trying to break that window. All of a sudden, the window finally does break. Man, they are flying, boy. She gets out there and she's thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to break every bone in my body, but at least I'll be alive." And she jumps out the back of the car. And then, pew! That's exactly what happens. She sees this station wagon hit that bridge in flight. It kind of turns upside down and smashes right into the drink. She's like, "Wow, holy schmoly." She's like limping in that. She wants to see. Make sure she ain't dreaming. She can't be dreaming because her leg is hurt, her jeans are torn. It's a bad time, right? She limps over there and she gets to the edge, and it's quite the drop, let me tell you. She's holding on to one of the posts there at the bridge, and she looks down. Sure enough, that station wagon is upside down now, okay, crushed, and there's water just blowing over the tires and the bottom side of the station wagon. She's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." She can't believe it. So she turns around and she limps back to the main road, where she has to hitchhike yet again, headed the opposite direction to exit 115. That's where she needs to go, because that's where that phone is at that she was going to go and call her mom when she dropped off the other fella. She's got to get to that exit 115. It's a must. So she's putting her finger out there, and thank God a police officer pulls off the side. Says, "Ma'am, why are you hitchhiking? You know it's dangerous hitchhiking. You shouldn't be hitchhiking. I mean, this isn't the freeway, but still, it's a pretty busy road, and you shouldn't be hitchhiking. It's very dangerous." She goes, "Oh, sir, you wouldn't believe what happened. This guy picked me up, and his car is his station wagon. It's in the drink there, and you're gonna have to call an ambulance." He doesn't hardly understand a lick she's saying, so he tells her to get in the car and point to where he's got to go and all that. And the police officer drives a bit, and she goes, "Be careful of the glass." And there is glass on the road there. It's kind of like a dirt road and such. And where she broke out the window. And he he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm not going to get a flat, you know. So he keeps driving, and he gets to the edge where that bridge is, and they both get out of the car. She's limping over again. And he looks down, and son of a gun, there ain't no car there. She's like, sir, I jumped out the window. She doesn't know what to say. So the police officer says to her, ma'am, have you been doing drugs? Okay, because there is no station wagon here. It would be there. I can't imagine it just run off by the time that you walk from here to there to the road and for me to come get you. She goes, but there's glass out there. You seen the glass? He goes, ma'am, there is no station wagon here at all. She's like, I'm losing my mind. But you see, she wasn't losing her mind. Oh, no. Oh, no. She's got to get to exit 115. That's top priority. So she tells the police officer, officer, will you please get me to exit 115? That's where I need to be. I need to be at, because I got to call my mama. I just got to call my mom. So he's like, okay, sure, no problem. Get in the car and I'll take you right there. So he takes her to exit 115. Certainly does. And what little bit of money that she did have on her, she was able to go inside the gas station there and get change for $1, in which she went to call her mother. So she went to do exactly that. It was one of those kind of phones, not the kind you get inside. No. It's just a payphone outside. And as she's walking up to the payphone, guess who stops her? Yeah. The gentleman that she picked up the first time. The one that told her that she was going to break down at 5 miles. The one that told her she's going to be picked up by a gentleman that was driving a station wagon. It would look like he was 10 years older than he was. Oh, yeah. That guy. The younger version. He says, Becky, I see you made it. I see you're all right. She goes, yeah. He goes, did you learn anything? She goes, yeah, I did. He goes, yeah, I learned a lot too. And you're one of very few that I'm able to talk to. She goes, what do you mean? He goes, Becky, let me just put it to you like this, and I'll leave you alone, and you'll never see me again. And that I can promise you. There are millions of people that are dying every single day. But there are very few that fight to stay alive. And you happen to be one of them. And that's awesome. It's awesome. And you're gonna make something of yourself. And you're gonna get an education. And you're gonna learn to be self-sufficient and not rely on someone else. Because when that car was barreling down the road at 90 miles an hour, and it was going to go into that drink, who was it that saved your life? It was you, Becky. It was all you. And I just wanted to thank you again for dropping me off at exit 115. I'm Monograph, and if you can't speak freely, you're simply not free.